Well, after we were briefed on the reason for taking Iwo Jima, and they told us what our plan of landing was, we were going to land one battalion, cut straight across the island, cut the southern part of the island off. That battalion then would turn and face the volcano. Second battalion land, immediately turn to the left, face the volcano. Then they would attack towards the volcano. At the base of the volcano were about 75 to 100 concrete emplacements. By the 21st, the evening of the 21st of February, we had destroyed all the emplacements and occupied the base of the mountain. 22nd was spent rearming, reorganizing because we'd lost about a third of our troops. In my case, I'd lost all three of my platoon leaders for the infantry platoons. Had all three been wounded. On the morning of the 23rd, Colonel Johnson ordered Fox Company to send a small detail, four-man detail, see if they could climb the mountain, and if so, to find a route. This detail is led by a sergeant by the name of Sherman Watson. Well, they scampered up the hill. They reached the summit without being fired on. They looked around. They didn't see any Japanese anywhere on the top of the mountain, so they turned around and started down. As they came down, Colonel Johnson called me and told me to send him a platoon and to put my executive officer, Lieutenant George Schreier, in charge. Previously, during the briefing, I forgot to say that there was some mention of giving the first people up on the mountain a prize of some kind. They mentioned champagne. Then our executive officer, Lieutenant Greeley Wells, said, Marine Corps Staff Manual says that the adjutant will always have a flag with him. And he says, when we land, I'll have a flag. So when George Schreier took his platoon over to the command post, Colonel Johnson handed in the flag that Greeley Wells had brought ashore from the troop transport that we had ridden. The patrol reached the summit, much to our surprise, without being fired on. And once they got to the summit, there were no Japanese there. So they found a piece of pipe. There was a cistern system for collecting rainwater. It had been completely damaged by bombing. Found a piece of pipe, and at 10:20 in the morning, they tied the flag on it and put the flag up. Now, with the patrol was a photographer for the Leatherneck magazine named Lou Lowry. Lou ran out of film in his camera just before they put the flag up, so he didn't get a chance to get a picture like Joe Rosenthal would later. But he did take some pictures of the men in the vicinity of the flag, and as a matter of fact, he posed 7 or 8 different pictures with different people standing around. At about that time, 3 Japanese came out of a cave. One was an officer waving a samurai sword that had been broken. I don't know how. Another man firing a rifle, and one man throwing grenades. One of them landed next to Lou Lowry. Lou jumped over the side of the volcano and slid about 15 or 20 feet. It didn't hurt him too much, but it did bust his camera up. It saved the film, but the camera was broken. Now, during the next 2 hours, there are a number of things that happen, and we have no record in any of the combat reports that I've been able to find time-wise. Just as the flag went up, Lieutenant General Holland M. Smith, who commanded all the Marines in the Pacific, landed on the beach with the Secretary of the Navy, James Forrestal. General Smith was affectionately known to us troops as Howling Mad Smith. He did have a temperament. The Secretary of the Navy, in a statement that's been printed many times, said, Holland, that flag up there means the Marine Corps for 500 years. He didn't put it in writing, but we hope it holds. Then he also added, he said, Holland, I'd like to have that little flag up there as a memento of my visit to Iwo Jima. Well, this word was passed by phone down to my battalion commander, Colonel Johnson, who put down the phone. And as Greeley Wells says, standing next to him, he said, "Hell no, they can't have our flag. We put it up there and we're going to keep it." So he sent a Lieutenant Tuttle down to the beach and said, "Go get me another flag." And Tuttle said, told me later on that as he was leaving the command post, the colonel said, "See if you can get a bigger flag." Now, we don't know whether the colonel wanted to get a bigger flag so it was more visible, or whether he wanted a more propitious flag for the Secretary of the Navy. I suspect the latter. And we'll never know because the colonel was killed 10 days later. So Tuttle's down getting a flag. Joe Rosenthal's getting off the command ship for what's going to be the greatest day in his career. Started out the worst. He slipped on the gangplank and fell in the ocean. They fished him out, and as he came ashore, the coxswain heard over the radio that the 28th Marines was sending a platoon up with a flag. So he told the coxswain he'd like to get off on Green Beach. He went right to the 28th Regiment command post. And there, as he says, he found a couple of photographers lounging around. One of them was William Gnaust, a sergeant. Had a movie camera with color film, which was fairly new in the battles. There was also a photographer, PFC, Bob Camel. So Joe talked them into going up the mountain with him. He said that he was a civilian, had no weapon, and these two people were armed, and he thought he liked the security. Also, about that time, I got a call from Colonel Johnson. Said to send him a small detail. They wanted to string telephone wire up the mountain. So I sent Sergeant Strank with 3 men. They went to the command post to get a reel of wire. My runner, Rene Gagnon, went into the communication center to get a battery for the radio up on the mountain. And the group came together, the radio, battery, and the men taking the second flag up and reeling out the wire. Unknown to him, Joe Rosenthal was following this group at some distance, unaware that they had a flag. About halfway up the mountain, Joe ran into Lou Lowry coming down, and Lou said, "Well, I've already got a picture of the flag, but he said it's worthwhile to climb up there. He said, the view is tremendous." So the 3 photographers talked among themselves and decided they'd go on up. When Joe got to the top of the mountain, he saw about 3 or 4 men tying a flag to another pole, and he said, "What's going on here?" Well, they said the colonel's afraid somebody's going to get the first flag as a souvenir, and he wants us to take that down and put this flag up. So Joe backed off about 30 feet. Gnaust backed off about arm's length to his right to get a picture of the second flag going up. Bob Camel went around to where he could get a picture of the 2 flags, the small one coming down and the other one going up. And we figure that about 12:15 probably, they raised the second flag and took the first one down, and that's when Joe got his famous picture. The story about Joe's picture goes on for, well, forever, but at least for another year there was some discussion, congressional investigations and so forth. But this is a story that I've been trying to get the Marine Corps to publish, and